And so, in some of the states where it's been legalized, namely Colorado as the main example here, there's a lot of discussion about the tax revenue that these states are going to be gaining from opening up sort of this marijuana market. So, I guess in these states, like how is it being taxed, and then like what sort of numbers are these states expecting to bring in a tax revenue from this crop?
So in Colorado, last November 2013, a year after they legalized it, they passed a supplementary law adding a 10% sales tax and a 15% excise tax to marijuana. The projections for how much tax revenue would be brought in, sort of varied. There were a lot of, pie in the sky estimates. Some ranging up to like $500 million, $100 million. In the first 6 months of this year, so the first 6 months that marijuana was legal in Colorado, I believe that it brought in about $30 million, and there were about $200 million in total sales. So it was so it's definitely lower than projected, but I think people are kind of expecting that, Mm-hmm. Everyone who's supported changing this wanted to believe that it would, just rain money out of the sky and it's going to be amazing. And in truth, it just, rained some good money. Now, the good news is that $30 million is going to help build schools in Colorado because as part of the measure that was passed last year, the first $40 million in tax revenue the state sees is earmarked to go to schools. And beyond that, a lot of it's going to go to prevention programs, treatment programs, and, other positive programs.
And for these states, is there any significant investment that they initially have to make in sort of opening up this marijuana market, or is it really they just pass the measure, pass whatever the tax measures are, and bring in the money?
Well, they have to set up new departments within other departments. You have to build the bureaucracy, what people might call the red tape, but others might call the sensible regulation of a marketplace. So they have to set up some amount of bureaucracy in order to process the applications to set up dispensaries, because they are issuing licenses. They have to pay people to review them. There are studies that have to be paid for, and people have to be paid to spend working hours. Maybe they were already employed or new employed, but someone has to measure the amount of money that's coming in, put in work on that. But right now, even in states that are starting to legalize and regulate marijuana, the controls aren't that great. You think about like a head of lettuce. When a head of lettuce gets to your plate, there are about 50 or more different allowed pesticides that can show up on that plate in that head of lettuce. And it can go through some very serious controls because there are large federal and state regulatory bodies which take care to look at that. You have the USDA, the FDA, the EPA. But right now, there really is no standard by which a marijuana crop is judged to be ready to go to market, either on the medicinal end or the recreational end. The only things they test for are potency, delta-9 hydrocannabinol, or THC, and cannabidiol, just to make sure that the levels are appropriate for each market, because they do have some regulations there. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot of money the state has to spend yet, but they will. At a certain point, they're going to have to come into compliance with all of these things, and at that point, you might see states having to spend a little bit more to manage this new industry.
Mm-hmm.